Aren't you coming down for dinner?
In a few minutes.
Oh, well, hurry up. Everything's getting cold. Peter, did you take your allergy pills? Peter!
Aunt May, I'm busy up here.
Well, did you take your allergy pills?
I took them.
Good. I'm going to put the soup on the table now. Did you hear me?
Yes, Aunt May, I heard you.
Hello, true believers and webheads. Welcome to another episode of the Spider-Man 77 Fan Show podcast. I'm your host, Paul Rodgers. On this show, we like to talk to the people who contributed to the series, but we also like to talk to people who have stories about the series. Planaria Price and her husband Murray are the owners of Heim House. Heim House was used as the location of Aunt May's house in the pilot episode, both the interiors and exteriors being used. Planaria was on set when they were filming back in 1977, so we're very privileged to be able to talk to her today. Planaria, welcome. I'm thrilled to be able to chat to you today.
Well, for me too.
Before we talk about your house, I'm sure our listeners would love to know more about yourself.
Oh yeah, well I was a teacher for 40 years, which I loved every day of. I taught in like a mile from my house. I taught adult immigrants English.
Mm-hmm.
So it was total bliss. I mean, here were adults from the age of 18 to 92 from 90 different countries who were coming to school because they wanted to learn English. There wasn't any discipline problems or anything. I mean, it was the best job in the world. I was really doing something important, and they loved me, and they brought food. It was all fantastic. It really was. And then the school program closed 12 years ago. It was all public funding, and so I retired. It was time. I taught for 40 years. Anyway, so I've lived in my house, which was built in 1887. I've lived in that house for 50 years. And I've worked with my husband very, very hard trying to restore the whole street and the whole neighborhood so that it wouldn't be torn down, because Los Angeles is Los Angeles, and it's a very modern city. So the house that I live in is on a street that is unique to all of Los Angeles. It has the largest concentration of historic houses in all of Los Angeles, and we all try to keep them really nice and appropriate and keep them up.
Yeah.
The whole area has an awful lot of old restored houses. People are trying very hard to restore old houses.
Yes. I noticed it was called Angelino Heights. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that
yes.
the area? That's not the street name, obviously. So that's sort of the area district, is it?
Yeah, the street name is Carroll Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
and you can Google Carroll Avenue, Carroll, and the whole area is called Angelino Heights. It's, of course, you don't have your LA map in front of you, but it's bordered by Sunset Boulevard to the north, and then the Hollywood Freeway to the south. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like an island. The Dodger Stadium, the baseball stadium, is in the north, and the music center is in the south. So it's got all kinds of markers. Echo Park Lake is on the west, and it's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful lake. And they have paddle boats that look like swans, and in the evening they all light up. It's just magical.
So you and your husband then, you worked on those sort of like called Victorian and craftsman homes then. So
Exactly.
obviously
Victorian.
so Victorian is obviously the style of the Victorian age, then I assume, is that? what that means?
Well, yeah, well, they were built in 1887, so they were
Mm.
built when it was fashionable to have that style, that architectural style.
Yeah.
And then there was a depression in the 1890s when people just didn't build anymore. And then in the 1900s, the economy got better. And so then they started building again, but this architectural style had changed, fashion. And so the style then had gone from Victorian to craftsman. And so they started building the craftsman houses.
So Craftsman is obviously another style then. It's just a more modern
Yeah.
style
Yeah.
then, yeah.
It's a far simpler style than Victorian, kind of opposite, much more low to the ground, no curly cues, just simple. The idea was that anybody could build it. So like a craft person, a craftsman could build it.
Yeah.
And so they are like interspersed between the older Victorians in the neighborhood in Angelino Heights.
So your house is called then, it's Heim House, is that right?
Well, that Heim, he was the first person to own it and live in it, and he was a brewer, and he had a couple of pubs and breweries in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Not famous or anything. Just most of the people who lived on the street and in the area were all upward mobile middle class.
Yeah. So that's it. So your house then, it would be a Victorian house, is that right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Victorian.
It's a lot grander looking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, so obviously you do that. You suppose you're very busy over the years looking at, maintaining these houses and restoring them. And you also then, I've seen here in 2018, you released a book, True Story.
My book. Yeah, I've written 7 books. I've written 6 books that were basically for my students, published by the University of Michigan Press. So they were kind of not real textbooks because I don't do that, but they were all about not American, but they're about famous folk tales and children's rhymes and American culture.
Mm-hmm.
So there were, I think, 6 of those. And then the last book I wrote, which is just now coming out in paperback. You can get it on Amazon. It's called Claiming My Place, and it's a memoir. Wonderful story, but I was able to meet a 91-year-old woman who was a Holocaust survivor, and I interviewed her for 5 full days, and her memory was absolutely phenomenal. And so I wrote this award-winning book that is really different than other Holocaust books because it encompasses her whole childhood, her happy childhood in Poland, and then what happened when the Germans came in, and then she's so smart. She escaped just before they came with the trucks to take everybody away. Her Polish was fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
and she had false papers, and she was able to escape within Poland, and then she was able to escape to Germany. She figured
The belly of the beast, literally, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that was actually one of the names of my book, The Belly of the Beast, but the publisher didn't want that.
Mm-hmm.
I had In the Lion's Den and The Belly of the Beast, but I don't like what the title they chose, but they're the publisher. So
yeah.
So anyway, I think it's a great book. I'm really pleased with it. It's very dramatic, and then I'm kind of an iconoclast. I don't do what other people tell me to do. So I wrote it in the first person, which it's not an autobiography, but I wanted people to understand that what I'm doing is retelling her story. I didn't make anything up. Every word is her words,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted it in the first person. And I also used the present tense because I wanted people to have a sense of being there. And it did it got the junior, what was it called? The Junior Library Guild Award, which is a really nice award to have.
Yeah, lovely.
And yeah, and I'm really happy with it. So it was in hardback with Macmillan, and then they decided not to print it again. They were supposed to sell it to all the schools in America, but they didn't. And then, so they gave me the rights back. They have the Audible and the Kindle. They have the rights to that, but they gave me the paperback rights back. So I was able to finally get that out, and it's available now.
I'm just reading that Barbara's daughter Helen also worked with you on it.
Yeah, yeah. She really helped me with the research,
Mhm.
and she insisted that I change. Originally, it was my name with Helen, and she insisted that I put "and" because it's her mother's story. But I wrote it. It's my book, and I'm proud of it. So,
It sounds like an amazing story. Yeah, I must look that up then. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
no, I'm really proud. I think it's a great read. It reads, as all of the reviews say, it reads like a novel, and it's very dramatic, and it's 100% true.
yeah.
And yeah, so it kind of starts when Barbara is 3, her memories and her memory was formidable, just absolutely amazing, from when she was 3, and then I had Helen write an ending for when Barbara got old and died. So I wanted Helen to be part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and she was. So she wrote the afterword. So
Awesome, yeah.
so it tells you. And she was never in the camps. Her family was, and I have one of those stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she never was in the camp. She lost a huge amount of family, but she had a wonderful time in Germany. I mean,
Yeah.
she was able to
But it must have been
escape.
hard. Yeah, I obviously haven't read the book, but it must have been hard knowing your family were what they were going through, and
Oh, oh,
obviously trying not to get your cover blown too. I suppose, like so.
absolutely, absolutely. But once she got to Germany, there were potatoes because they were starving in the ghetto,
Mm.
absolutely starving. So she felt fairly safe in the belly of the beast. She didn't feel safe in Poland. She said, a Pole can smell a Jew a mile away. But Germans are stupid, she said. If they're told that there's no Jews living in the city, fine, they won't look. So she felt pretty safe there.
And
So
obviously she was then.
yeah,
So you mentioned then, so obviously, restoring the houses, and one of the houses you restored was your own house, so which was obviously the one we're going to talk about, which was used in the Spider-Man television series and the pilot episode.
exactly.
So
Yeah, exactly.
everybody listening to this will already know this, but just for our listeners, your house was used as Aunt May's house, who is Peter Parker's aunt. Peter Parker, obviously Spider-Man.
Okay. I don't
Um,
even remember. But yeah, I just remember the actor being in the attic.
yeah. So the actor, obviously Nicholas Hammond, played Peter Parker. So
Uh-huh.
there was obviously some filming done outside of your house, but the majority was done inside.
Uh-huh.
So just
I
wanted to talk about any stories you had about, were there many people there and how many days were there, sort of things, if you can remember. That was a long time ago.
oh,
So,
I'm sorry. I have had so many movies in my house that I just really can't separate them. I've had some big television ones. The remake of East of Eden, that was a huge one. They were there forever. And then something called Modern Problems that came right after, and Splendor in the Grass. I mean, I've had a lot of big movies, and then small TV commercials, and it's just hard to keep them separate.
yeah,
The Spider-Man one I really remember because of what they did to the actor, um, who was very young at the time, if I remember correctly. But there must have been at least 100 people part of the cast and crew.
really?
I mean, that's
Wow. Yeah.
normal. There's like 100 people, and they're just all over the street, and there's all over movie equipment all over the street, although we do limit it now because it was a little excessive.
Mm-hmm.
So now we only allow 3 huge vans And then we rent somebody's house in the neighborhood for catering. And then they're all over the neighborhood. It's very intrusive. Most of the
I can
neighbors are
imagine,
very
yeah.
upset about it, but I talk to the location people and I say, no, give the neighbors a little money for their trouble, and that makes people happy. So it's never enough money, but it makes them
Takes the edge
happy, and
off, yeah.
we all want to be happy. So and then of course during COVID, we had no movies or anything at all. Across the street from me is the house my husband owns, and it was used as the location for the TV series Charmed. Do you know
Oh yeah,
Charmed?
yes. I haven't. I think I've probably watched it years ago. My wife's more aware of it, so yeah,
Well, it's more for younger
yeah.
younger women, I think. It is probably the most famous, favorite, popular series that's ever been on, more than Friends. Or I mean, I don't watch television, so I really don't know this stuff.
hmm
But I think it started as a pilot. I think they started in 1998 and ended in 2004. It was, I think, 8 seasons, but it ended in like 2004. It is now 2023. We get tourists, fans every single day. It's like amazing, and they're from all over the world. I mean, all over the world. It started maybe in 2005, I guess. Some taxi pulled up, and 2 Asian women got out of the taxi and started taking photos of the house. And my husband went over to them to ask them what they were doing, but they didn't speak English. So he went to the taxi driver and he said, "Where did you get them?" And the taxi driver said, "Oh, at the airport." "Oh, okay. And where are you taking them?" And he said, "Oh, at the airport." So to go from our house to the airport's like $80. So they spent $160 to go on a layover, I guess, from the airport to the Charmed House and then back to catch their plane.
My
And
goodness.
that was just the beginning of all this craziness. It's just amazing. We got a letter last year, from a woman that my husband remembers, a tourist, a middle-aged woman, and the letter was from Australia. And the letter said, "I just have to write to you to thank you. We came to Los Angeles to see everything, and we went to Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm and Universal
hmm
Studios and Hollywood and Vine. But the most incredible, memorable, fantastic moment was when you let us go inside the Charmed House. And we just want to thank you so much for making our trip to Los Angeles worth it."
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah. So you said there was quite a lot of people then involved in the filming for the Spider-Man show, and
So
so
there always
there
are.
always
I mean,
is. Yeah.
there's always at least, if it's a commercial, 60 people, and if it's a film, to like 100 people. And then of course I'm counting just people, but
hmm
there's the cast and the crew and all of the cameras and all of the booms and all that stuff. And it's through all throughout the whole house, depending on where they're filming. And I really don't remember where they filmed. I only remember, maybe I wasn't even home, because normally during filming I go somewhere else.
Yeah.
um, but I definitely remember being in the attic and watching that part, which was the most memorable part that I think you'll enjoy. Um, 'Cause I have probably in Los Angeles one of the very few attics. We don't have attics. We don't need attics. Victorian houses have those huge sloped roofs,
hmm
and under the roof is the attic. But most people don't have Victorian houses, and if they do, then they've turned it into some kind of a bedroom or study or something. So I have one of the few real attic-looking attics in Los Angeles, and I believe that's why they chose my house. I don't think it was for the exterior, but my memory is a major part of the filming went on in the attic. I think that's where he discovers that he's a spider or something.
Yeah, there's
But
sort of a dream sequence he has, and then he thinks, "Oh, I can climb walls." So he then
well,
ventures out onto the roof.
well, this is the part I remember. I have several windows that open from the attic to the outside, and they had him for a photo shoot. They had him like climb out. This young actor. They had him climb out the window of the attic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the director thought it looked so good that he had him continue to climb out. And they retired the stunt double who was there for the climbing out. And they had this poor young actor do all of the climbing out. So that's what I remember, that they made him.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because there are, obviously, when you watch the film, there's as you say, you can see when it's a stuntman. You know, obviously you can tell they've used a stuntman for certain, but with that piece, the footage you're talking about, you can see the side of Nicholas Hammond's face. So it's like, that's really him on the side of the roof, you know, or on the window outside. It's like, well, you know, so they must have had him. Did they have him tied in? Can you remember that, or was he like strapped in or anything? Or?
No, I don't remember any of that. I mean, we're talking what, 50 years ago?
Well, I'm 40. What age am I? Yep, 40 over 45. So yeah.
So you're asking me at my age to remember something like that? And
I know. It's just a wee detail. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So,
but I remember that the terror. I think the word is terror, or maybe horror or surprise. But I remember that sensation that I got because I was standing right there on the inside of the attic. I remember the surprise, and you actually want me to do that? Wait a minute. And they did, and he did, and it made me a little nervous, but happy that I have liability insurance.
Well, nobody got hurt, so I suppose it's a happy ending, you know.
Yeah.
So as far as like the room as well, was that? Obviously, there's furniture, there's a bed in the room, and there's posters on the wall. Did they put all that up, or was that already there? Or is that your own stuff?
I don't remember, but probably half and half. But yeah, it's a full attic, and an attic is like an American garage. I don't know what you have in Ireland, but it's like an extra storage room. There, I say to everybody, they're the most dangerous room in the house, because when something like a piece of furniture or something breaks, you should put it out on the street.
Mm-hmm.
You should, throw it away. But no, we might want it sometimes, so we put it up in the attic.
Yeah, it's a bit like my garage. Yeah.
The attic is fully packed with just stuff.
Yeah,
lots of stuff, and movies. So there's a lot of movie companies that love using my attic. I can't think of a movie right now, but that did, besides Spider-Man. I definitely remember that one.
Did you ever see him in the costume, the Spider-Man costume? Because there's a part in the film where he walks into the front of a mirror and looks at himself in the costume. Do you remember that? Or?
No, I don't think I ever saw the movie. I'm really bad at that. I've grown up in Hollywood my life. I sold Girl Scout cookies to actresses. I'm really anti-celebrity, so we don't watch television. I write books, I read books. So I can't tell you about any movies really.
Yeah, and then also the only actors were Nicholas Hammond and then Jeff Donnell, who played Aunt May. Do you remember Jeff Donnell in the house, or any scenes that were filmed?
No, the name's not even ringing any bells.
Yeah,
no.
It was some. Yeah, there were very few scenes. They're probably just sort of, I would imagine they're probably done in one day, probably,
or more. They really do take their time, though.
Really?
It'll take, oh my God, maybe 6 minutes for a day or something for a script. Yeah, no, they're often there a long, long time.
Yeah.
To at least 2 or 3 days. And then I don't remember about setting up and then taking it down. Sometimes they do it all in one day, and sometimes it takes one day to set up, and then they film, and then one day to take everything down. So it depends on the particular film.
Yeah.
Now with Charmed, it was a pilot, and it became so viral so fast that they just decided to go with it. And what they did immediately was build a set, take my husband's interior house, measure everything, and they made a set. So they came back every 6 weeks to do the exterior, the red house, which was very nice, very lucrative, because they pay well. And so he got paid for eight seasons, maybe every 8 weeks or something. But the set, the house was theirs. And it was funny because, we don't watch television very much, but I would always say, we've got to see Charmed just for a minute. So we'd turn it on and we'd look like the second season or the third season, and we'd look at his house, and I'd say, wait a minute, you don't have a sun porch like that, or look at the kitchen, it's so much bigger, because every year they change the set a little bit. So that was fun.
So you only really remember sort of filming in the attic then? You don't know if there was any filming done in the backyard or anything like that?
No, I have no idea. Idea. But I do have a backyard, so.
Yeah, because there is a scene where he does sort of swings about trees, but I don't know if it was filmed there or somewhere else,
I don't have trees to swing on.
Yeah.
I would think, although they can do anything with set, living in a set. No memory of that. My only memory is watching while they were in the attic. And the rest, I probably just went shopping or something.
Listen, I just want to say thank you for giving your time up. I really appreciate taking the time to talk to some weirdo from Ireland,
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for listening, and thanks to Planaria for joining and sharing. We'll be back soon with another episode. In the meantime, you can visit our website, spiderman77.com, and you can also follow us on social media. Our Facebook page is Spider-Man77 TV series. Our Instagram, Twitter, and Threads are all Spidey TV series. You can also follow us on YouTube at Spider-Man77 TV Fans. I've been Paul Rodgers, and you've been listening to the Spider-Man 77 Fan Show podcast.